If there's a lesson we can take away from our collective experience this past year, it's that adversity breeds innovation. This is Kingston Live, and today we're joined by a band that took the pandemic as a chance to exercise their creativity. Kingston indie rock four-piece Hinterwood looked at the pandemic downtime and saw an opportunity. Without a stage, there's still an audience, and when you can't physically meet as a band, there's still room for collaboration. Since early 2020, Hinterwood has found a number of ways to take advantage of restricted circumstances and maintained a constant flow of music. Last year, they released a 5-track self-titled EP and the single Flamingo, as well as a slew of acoustic sessions recorded individually at the homes of each of the band members. Most recently, the band dropped Wanderlust, the first tease of their upcoming debut album, and a track that finds Hinterwood continuing to polish their blend of indie rock and folk influences.
The audience in Kingston is incredibly supportive.
We're all sort of doing it together.
There's something in every artist that comes out of Kingston that feels like it's an outlier.
It is a strange and wild and wonderful place.
Hello, this is the Kingston Live podcast. I'm back. I haven't been on here in a while. Reid is with me. Hello, Reid.
Hello.
And we are talking with half of Hinterwood. We have Kimaya. Hello, Kimaya.
Hi, it's great to be here.
It's nice to have you here. And Max.
Hey.
Thank you for being here with us. I'm going to start this off. I've got a few little rapid fire questions. I kind of like doing this. It just kind of gets the conversation going and puts people on the spot just a little bit. I'll start with Reid. I'll put him on the spot first. Favorite Kingston eatery? Favorite local restaurant?
I was just having this conversation with somebody today. I would say it's either between Pat's Restaurant or Royal Encore.
Good choices.
I would say Royal Encore right now because, you know, they're on the Uber Eats and the Skip the Dishes. They're more easy to get to. And Pat's, you got to go there. But I mean, both are just top notch.
Cool. Kimaya.
Sima Sushi. That's like birthday, Christmas. That's where my family goes.
That's that one downtown, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Max.
I'm a big fan of Saigon Delights.
Ooh, also good choice.
Yeah.
Yes, all good choices. What Kingston artist, musician, singer, whoever, what Kingston musical artist currently has your attention? Max.
I've been following Castledor a lot. They've been posting a lot online, and I feel like they're leading up to releasing something big.
Kimaya?
Yeah, for me, the Morning Doves. I know both members, or all three members individually, and seeing them come together is just amazing. They're doing some great live streams on Facebook that are just so nice to listen to.
Okay, I don't know the Morning Doves. I'll have to look into that.
It's Spencer Evans, Tyson Sullivan, and Oscar Evans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a power group right there.
Mm-hmm.
Reid?
Well, other than Hinterwood, I would say
yes.
Future of Free. We've been playing them on the show a lot.
Yeah.
They've just released a great new album right now. Those guys, really good.
What music venue, Kingston music venue, do you miss the most right now, Kimaya?
Musiki, for sure. I used to play every week at the open mics, and Hinterwood has had a couple gigs there. Oh, I miss the vibes, the community, getting to know new musicians and collaborating. Amazing.
Max?
It's a tough one. I also want to say Musiki, but I think I'm going to say the Brooklyn, actually. I mean, that's not even really pandemic related because they closed a little bit before. But man, I miss that place.
Yeah. Oh, interesting choice. Reid?
Yeah, that's a good one. I miss the Brooklyn a lot, man. But I would have to say the Blue Martini since I feel like I exclusively play at the Blue Martini. but definitely between that and the Toucan for sure.
Oh yeah.
And finally, what non-musical activity are you most looking forward to post-COVID?
Oh man. They're all musical. Going to the beach. I've been wanting to go to the sandbanks for so long now. I think that's going to be tons of fun.
Reid?
Yeah, something I've never done before. I've never gone to Canada's Wonderland, and I've never gone to Calypso. Those two, that sounds like fun to me. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe it could be a disaster if I go. But just honestly, just hanging out with friends, just casually and freely, like just going over to somebody's house and going to chat with. It doesn't have to be a huge party for me. It can just be just a small, intimate group of people. That's something I'm really missing right now.
Yeah, man.
Totally. Kimaya?
Yeah, along those lines, I wonder if they'll be happening this year, the movies in the square.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I only went a couple times, but every time I went, I was like, I've got to come every week.
Yeah. I forgot about the movies in the square. It seems like so long ago.
I forgot about most things, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? We have the Kingston Live group. We have a meeting every week, and we talk about who are we gonna talk to? What are we gonna do? And we decided, let's talk to Hinterwood. They've been doing some interesting things. Let's see what they're up to. And yesterday we had our meeting, and we said, okay, we're not going to talk about COVID. And about an hour before hitting record, I was like, you know what? We're going to talk about COVID. There's no way to circumvent it, but hopefully we can talk about it in a positive way, because it looks like there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Things are starting to open up. But also it occurred to me, we've been doing this podcast for about 2.5 years now, and I did the math. We've spent about half of that time in a pandemic now, which is crazy. Yeah, but I've been saying for a while now, all these podcasts, like normally you want podcasts to be a bit timeless. You want them to have, a decent shelf life. You don't want them to be too dated, but there's no getting around what's going on. And I've been resigned to this idea lately that these podcasts are just going to serve as a kind of time capsule. So really, I see the podcast in the last, 15 months as kind of a monthly chronicle of Kingston's live music scene in a pandemic. So thank you for joining us on this really weird journey.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yes, having said that, we do appreciate you being here, and I will let you guys talk in a second. I just wanted to get all that out of the way. But yeah, let's talk about the beginnings. Let's start at the beginning. Let's talk about the beginning of Hinterwood. How'd you guys come together?
So Jonah is the drummer. The two of us, we've been playing together for a long time. We're coming out of another band that we were in high school. And when we started just like playing together, picking up old songs and whatnot. And when I was in college at St. Lawrence, studying music and digital media, my friend Nate, we met him, and the three of us, we started kind of just as a trio playing live shows around town and whatnot. Him and I would kind of like, pawn off the vocals. So it was just, I would play bass, he would play guitar and sing, and then Jonah on the drums. Since that time, Nate's actually working on a few other projects right now. He's playing with another man, Thomas. They got their Nate and Thomas project right now. They sound really good. But then around the same time that Nate had to, go and work on that, we found Kimaya, who was actually in the same program that I was in, but a year younger. And then Josiah, who's also like a really good friend of ours. We've known him for a while, and he was just coming back from China at the time. He was actually in China around the time that COVID began. And so he had to come back here. And when he came back, we're like, all right, so now we got 4 people here. Now let's like try to get going, even though it was the start of pandemic. So I'd say from the time that like we all really like started playing together until that time that it was like the 4 of us like really trying to press the gas pedal and get going. That was about a year of sort of limbo of just like, what is this? Like, is this a for serious band or just for fun or what? But it was around the start of 2020 that we like just really started to get going.
I like the St. Lawrence connection because we always hear about all these bands starting at Queens. We never hear about anything at the college. Like, what's happening over there? I'm the only person speaking right now who hasn't been to St. Lawrence College. Is there like a scene there? What's happening? I know there's the music program, but what's going on there?
Yeah, I guess it's more of like a music production program in a way. So kind of like what the specialty is like being your own musician. So like being able to like sit behind a console and record and sit behind a camera and whatnot. So I think a few projects naturally come out of that. Like actually Jonah and Josiah, they did go to Queens, but again, I just knew them personally anyways. Unfortunately though, we didn't really get to take advantage of any of those, like being in college, being in university, just being like that, like post-secondary band, because like while that was happening, we were stuck at home because of COVID. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember at St. Lawrence, like how Nate and Max found me was because, I was in the program, but the first and second years don't mix all that much for a little while. And that's where the open mics come in at St. Larry's Pub, which this past year has not been open for obvious reasons. But the open mic there is very instrumental in getting people to get to know each other and jam together. And the teachers are also very well connected with the Kingston music scene, like Dave Barton and John Stewart and a whole bunch of people. So it's great to work or be taught by practicing musicians.
I was just going to say too, it seems that program has really evolved into what it was before, into the new studio that has been created just recently. And with all like such a great faculty. Do you guys know anything about the future of this program and where it's going? It's just great to see more alumni coming through the music program at St. Lawrence.
Yeah, the program's gone through an overhaul, and it's a great program now. And like you said, the new music studio, we were actually able to use that studio for one of our filming projects. We have a couple videos on our YouTube, the Whiplash video and Worth It. So we got to use the studio space for filming and audio, because that program, it is like video production, audio production, music theory, practice, and entrepreneurial skills. It's pretty well-rounded.
Kimaya, you mentioned the open mics, and Reid and I were talking about the band's sound before you guys joined us just now. And we were talking about kind of the juxtaposition of your vocals and this rock band. It kind of sounds like there's sort of almost like a folk vibe with the vocals, but then there's this band driving it. I described it as like folk on steroids or something.
Yes, absolutely. I love to hear that the folk comes through a little bit. Yeah, my personal sound is like folk jazz and a little bit of pop kind of thing. But when you have the band, like you get this cool fusion. And oh yeah, I think it was just because at the open mic I was playing for one of my classmates, and we had half an hour to come up with a cover for a recording project. And so I was playing that, and he was playing electric guitar. So I think that since Nate and Max were able to hear my voice with the electric guitar, they were like, oh, okay, yeah, that sound can work. Like, I like that. At least that's what I remember you guys telling me later on.
Yeah, actually, Nate and I, we were at the school late. We were recording, and we were walking by the pub, and then we heard Kamaya's vocals. We're like, holy shit, who is that? And so we looked in the pub, and we're like, oh my God, like we've seen her around class. And so afterwards, that's when we talked to her, and we're like, hey, why don't you come out and come to some practices and let's see what we can do here.
I'm picturing the Hinterwood biopic right now. That's a great scene right there.
Yeah, I remember I was invited out to practice, and then I was like, okay, sweet, I get to jam with some new people. And they're like, all right, like show us what you got, like play along with these things. Like, what have you written lately? Like, what's your songwriting process like? And so I just like played like a few of my originals for them, and they were like, oh yeah, that's got a groove. Because that was like very jazz inspired. It had like some funk like rhythms in it, but with the folk melodies. And anyways, yeah. And then we just started jamming from there, and was it a second jam? And then that's when they asked me to join the band. And I was like, yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's really cool, because again, Reid and I were talking beforehand, and we were talking about your sound, and we both agreed that it feels like there's something very collaborative there. Like it feels like when you listen to the music, it feels like the people in the band just click somehow, and the music kind of clicks with them.
For sure, our music writing process is very collaborative. Like, for example, a lot of our songs, Max will come with like a guitar riff, and then I'll take that and write some lyrics and add some form, and then we'll jam it with the band, and Jonah and Josiah will do their amazing, like they're locked in together. They're an amazing rhythm section, and they just arrange their parts, and then we all work together as we practice it to figure out, okay, like, yeah, we're gonna do like a 4-beat stop here and then come in like on the second beat. Anyways, all these little details we come up with together to really make this song cohesive and collaborative in that way.
Yeah, I think very rarely anyone's come to practice with like a completed song, all the the arrangement and lyrics and everything, and just said like, okay, here's your part, here's your part, here's your part. It's more of like, I'm sitting down here and I'll just be like noodling around on my guitar. I got like a loop pedal, just looping stuff, and then I'll come up with something. I'm like, okay, this is really cool, and then I'll bring that to the band. I'll say, what do you guys think? And then from there, we'll just kind of build it up. Like Jonah will just start going nuts on the drums. Josiah will lay down some meaty bass, and then Kimaya is usually pretty good at like coming up with like melodies and lyrics and stuff, just kind of like on the spot too, which is something that's really cool, because a lot of times like we've come to practice with just a riff and left with like a almost completed song.
Yeah, as long as I record it, I'm good. I just need to be able to remember what I did.
Well, and Max, I know you some of the members in the band have you guys been playing together for a long time. I know you guys had groups like the Banters, and you've been in numerous projects, man. So has this sort of really helped you guys in terms of the flow and communication of being as tight as you are right now?
I think so. I think like it's so like ingrained now that when I'm writing songs alone, I'm thinking like, when I'm thinking about the rest of the band and whatnot, I'm thinking like, okay, like I feel like this is how Jonah's gonna sound, or like I'm imagining the rest of the band when I'm just alone anyways. So I think it just like right from the start, like the band is like in the picture really.
The biggest thing that I kind of want to get to is the fact that, you guys started in the beginning of 2020, which it's definitely a strange time to start a band, and not that you knew at the beginning of 2020 what we were in for, but it's the fact that you guys have been able to keep going and release music in a pandemic and just keep your momentum up. What is it that keeps your momentum going and your spirit up? I mean, just in a time where a lot of people are feeling really lonely right now, really uninspired, what kind of drives you guys to keep going with this?
For me personally, it's just knowing that there is going to be an end. Like, this sucks right now, but it's not like 5 years from now it's still going to be like this. I mean, I hope not. But like knowing that, like, if we just sat here doing nothing, then like that's like, at this point that it would have been a year and a half of wasted time, and like we're probably a few months away from like some sense of normalcy. So like, I think it's just like personal fulfillment, like wanting to tell yourself that like you stayed productive, and like again also just like we were in the right program to be able to do this kind of stuff at home, because like that's exactly what we were learning, is like how to make quality content with what you have. And so we were sitting here over Zoom. We're like, we have the gear to record our own stuff. Like it's better and it's more fun to be in a proper studio, but like we can do this at home, so why not?
I want to take kind of a different angle on this, and I think you sort of alluded to this, but has the pandemic been like a complete setback? Like, are there things that happened with you guys during the pandemic that wouldn't have happened otherwise?
Live streaming, for sure. Live streaming has definitely been a cool thing. The flamingo video that we did with recordings that we all did in our own homes that was so cool to do. What a great project. And I mean, I think the pandemic keeps it fresh, because sometimes we're allowed to see each other and sometimes we're not. And it means that like we really appreciate the times when we do get to jam together. And I always get this like grateful feeling and, just like so much love for the band in my chest. And it's so nice. It makes you really appreciate it.
That may be the most positive thing anyone has said about the pandemic. Thank you for that.
Makes you appreciate the good times. Yeah. But yeah, for me, it's songwriting. I'm always excited to see where the next songs are going to go. And, we have a new album coming out, but we've also started writing the whole next album. And so it's like, okay, I just want to work on that. It's very, very lucky that there was a break in the pandemic when we were able to rent the Baby Grand in Kingston to record this upcoming album. That was prime timing.
So when exactly was that?
That was in November of 2020. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. 3 of us, everyone except for Max was in full-time school online. So it was a lot to juggle being in the studio like 8 hours a day. Was it 7 days a week? Were we there on the weekends? I don't think so.
Yeah, we were there for like 30 days straight every day. Like,
it was wild.
Well, we had to come up with like some crazy schedules to like just make it work, because like the Grand is basically on like banking hours, like 9 to 5. And so with everyone having class, it's like, okay, like Kimaya can do vocals like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but like not between like 1 and 3 p.m. Just like a ridiculously like specific schedule. And then as I was like, because I graduated last year, so like I had that time available to me, and like since I was the one producing the album, I was like just kind of like directing, like, okay, this is what we need to do here, and like it was a lot of fun for me taking on a project for that, and like I think it was a lot of fun for the band, just kind of like being able to take on like a project that big ourselves. Like we had basically the entire Grand Theater to ourselves during that time, which was like super fun. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing that we were able to record it ourselves with our own gear. I think we saved a lot of costs there, and it was definitely a lot of fun to do. And thank you so much to Max for leading that whole project while the rest of us were like doing school at the same time. It was amazing. Yeah.
Well, I think we were all really stressed out, but it was worth it. Like after that, we took like probably like a month where we like barely spoke to each other. We're like, we just need to like take some space here.
I don't think it was a whole month. Maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah,
we definitely missed some practice.
I think there have been some bands that haven't talked in a whole year, so I think a month is pretty good. I was going to ask just about your studio, Max. Did you built this before the pandemic, or has the bulk of it really been created through this whole thing?
Sort of both. I mean, I invested in a lot of gear like while I was in college, because I just got really interested in all this. I was like, this is what I want to do after, is I want to have my own studio and bring bands in. And then when the pandemic happened, I was like, okay, like now I have time to like figure this out and like lay out all the details. So like, I mean, this rig behind me, I guess anyone listening to the podcast isn't going to see what I'm pointing to here, but
you know what? Tell me what's in there. I want to know what's in there.
Okay, so it's not finished yet. You can see some open space here, but essentially what this is going to be is a mobile live recording rig here. So I've got 16-channel interface with a headphone amp. So that portion of it is going to be for like when I have people in this studio. I'm going to have like, you know, recording them and filming them. It's going to be a good time. But then I'm also going to have 2 more interfaces that I can record live shows with. And then I'm going to be going to like, you know, different bars with bands and stuff, and be recording like multi-tracks of their live sets, so that like we can start getting like some real high quality recordings of live music once it starts back up again. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do. And that is something that I've just started during the pandemic, but you know, the rest of the studio behind me, it's been more of a practice space than anything currently.
I've even noticed just a difference, you know, just from talking to you in January for the radio show. It seems a bit better setup right now with curtains. It looks like a living space right now.
Yeah, it's cozy in here.
So let's talk about the fruits of all this recording gear. We've got some music coming out.
Absolutely. We've got a new single out. It's called Remedy. It's everywhere. It's the second single off of the album that's coming out later this summer. And we're super happy with it. I think this is probably one of our most upbeat songs. And I'm not sure if by the time this comes out, we're going to have our third single out, but there is going to be a third single before the album and then the album.
And anything you want to tell us about the track before we get into it?
This is a song that's been years in the making. I wrote the music for it, or most of the music. Like it was a collaborative thing, but again, it was the same situation where like I brought a riff to the band. But that riff was written years and years ago, like back in high school almost. And then I also had a chorus for it. Now this was actually our previous band, the Banters, that Reid mentioned earlier. This was a song that I pitched to that band just before that band stopped playing together. And so there was an old, like really muffled recording of us jamming that song, and Colin, our old singer, he was singing something on top of it. But he never wrote that down, and we also couldn't decipher what he was saying. There was just like a melody in there that was really catchy. So I was listening to this recording from like 3 or 4 years ago. I'm like, okay, I gotta like put words to this. This is fantastic. So I wrote the chorus that way, but I could never come up with a verse. And then Kimaya came in and she wrote the verses. And so I mean, it's been like a song that's like been floating around for about 4 years now.
Yeah, Remedy was so cool when Max brought it, because I love when the song is partially complete and I get to ask, oh, what is this about? And then I get to relate to that in my own life and tell the rest of that story with the verses in this case. And I think we came out with something really great. Yeah.
You just don't go quite my speed. Maybe that's not what I need. A cruel game of catch-up's what this is, and I don't wanna be your remedy. I'm not one to stay and sit. I need some freedom for a I'm not waiting around long until I'm bitching to be alone. I should have known that you weren't waves are crashing over me, so why don't you stop treating me like I'm a remedy, 'cause I'm not. Treating me like I'm a remedy, 'cause I'm not.
Thank you for listening to Kingston Live. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. For more great Kingston music, check out the Kingston Live playlist on Spotify. You can also hear our sister show, Kingston Live on Air, on Amherst Island Radio 92.1 FM and CFRC 101.9 FM.
you guys mentioned to us before that the album is going to tell a whole cohesive story, which I think everyone can agree that that's how an album should be created. It should tell a whole story front to back. Can you tell us of what that story might be without maybe giving away anything?
Yeah, this album is definitely a cohesive piece. I wrote most of the lyrics for the album, and Max wrote some as well. And the majority of the songs tell the story of a relationship of mine that began in person, and then she moved away, and navigating that whole change.
I think that's something that we can all relate to.
Yeah, we really tried to take that idea and run with it, even in terms of like the production of the album. Like, we have songs that blend into other songs. I think one thing we were mentioning earlier, we don't want to give too much away because we want people to experience this for the first time, but the listener will be rewarded for listening to it front to back. I think that's like an important thing we wanted to get across, to really let them know that like this is like a story with a beginning and an end, and high points and low points in between. So
concept album, love it.
Sure, yeah.
Something I love asking people, do you care to share any on-stage mishaps?
Ooh. Our first show that we played during the pandemic, which was like our first really big show back in September, I blew a string on like the second song, which is like very guitar heavy song. So as I was going to get my backup guitar, we were recording that show. I knocked the kick drum mic out of Jonah's kick drum, and we had to take some time to fix that. It was kind of a nightmare, but it was only the second song, so hopefully people forgot about it by the end of the show.
Yeah, there was another thing that happened at that show where we wanted to record the whole set. This was before Max had his whole mobile recording rig set up, and everything went really well except for the vocals. So we have these recordings, but they don't have any vocals in them at all.
No,
it's too bad. At the time, we were like, we were talking about using these as like content that we can put out, and we're like, okay, we can't grab the vocals, but like it's all right. Maybe we can just listen back to like the instrumentals, and we can just kind of enjoy that. And we're listening back to the instrumentals. We're like, damn, like we played so well that night, and we're just like, now we're just so mad that we don't have the vocals, because like that would have been something that we want to share with everyone, but can't do it now. The recording is ruined.
Was there any thought of overdubbing it at all, or could it just not be done?
There is an argument to be had for that, but I think like we really wanted to be like genuine, like this was our live performance, and so
Fair.
we missed that chance.
How about you, Reid? Any onstage horror stories? You're a musician.
I've got a few. One involves opening for Sarah Harmer, and I want to talk about that off air, and we can. I don't want to talk about that right now. We can talk about that with Chris Morris too. I'll get him in on that story because I've got some apologies to make to him for sure. But one that I can talk about. I was in a musical one time, and I got through the first verse of the song and then completely forgot the rest of the entire song. So I had to pretty much just make it up. And it's hard because you got a band in the background that doesn't know where you're going with it. And I just kind of made it up and then kind of scattered a little bit and ended the song. And it was probably the worst moment, one of the worst moments ever.
Oh boy. Max and Kimaya, as you know, the Kingston Live podcast, we're all about exposing and celebrating the live music scene in Kingston. I want to ask you guys, what makes the Kingston music scene special?
I think it's that everyone supports each other. Like, I just love how in Kingston everyone will upsell each other and be like, oh, like you like my sound, like check out my buddies, and he supports all the other bands happening in Kingston. It doesn't feel like a competition; it feels like a collaboration, and that's really special, I think.
I think for me, I think it's the fact that I think there's more bars downtown that support live music than those that don't. And so when you're hanging out with friends and you're walking around downtown and you're maybe bar hopping or whatever, like you're almost always going to run into local music, and in that way, like I think that's how a lot of bands are discovered. It's just playing like a Thursday, Friday night, and you just have hundreds of people like coming and going all the time. So I think that's something that maybe other cities don't have as much of.
That seems to be the most one of the most common answers that we get from a lot of people is just such the support of local venues and just other bands as well, right? Like I've always said, a win for one band in Kingston is a win for everybody. It just really elevates our scene, which is really great to see just such a communal support of each other.
Absolutely.
We've talked before of how it's kind of hard to do like sort of a release party for your album right now in a pandemic. So what are sort of the plans to kind of promo this album? And then what are your plans after that?
As much live music as possible, when possible. I think we're going to take every opportunity we have. We already have the next album written. We want to record that as soon as possible too. We're really happy with that as well. So I don't know, like, I think we're going to be in the same boat as just about every other band in the world, that we just want to like go balls to the wall and just like, you know, tour and record and everything that we're doing now besides live music, basically, just a lot more of it.
I always make it a point to see a band before we interview them for the podcast. I haven't been able to do that for over a year now. Yeah. But I look forward to seeing you guys on stage eventually.
Absolutely, yeah.
Max, Kimaya, thank you so much for joining us today. This is fun.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
This has been Kingston Live. We encourage you to rate us on your listening platform of choice and subscribe where possible. Kingston Live was produced in Kingston at Titan Sound. Hosted by Reid Cunningham and John Sanfilippo. Writing and research by Peter Sanfilippo. Voiceovers by Riley Jabor, hey that's me, and John Sanfilippo. Promotional assistance by Jackson Coulter and Reid Cunningham. Executive producer Rob Howard. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at podcast@kingstonlive.ca.